So you guys, welcome to another episode of Coach Talk, where with me, Stephanie, the coach from Unveiling the Spirit, and Willie Johnson from For a New Day. Today, we want to talk about setting realistic goals. And so before we get into this, make sure you like this video, that you share it, especially if you feel like you know somebody that could benefit from what we will be discussing. Please make sure you share it with them. There's no benefit in talking about something if nobody is hearing it. So we need to get the message out there, and we really want to encourage people and try to give people the tools they need to reach their goals. And so today we want to talk about setting realistic goals, because a lot of people have dreams, but actually like achieving those dreams is a whole different process. And a lot of times people don't even start getting to achieving their dreams or doing what it is required to achieve their dreams, because they don't have realistic goals and a plan in place to do that. And so that's what we want to talk about today. And I'm curious as to what you want to start us off with, Willie. So what is your opinion about setting realistic goals? Like, what is like the first thing that you think people need to do when it comes to setting realistic goals?
Right. Well, so for me, one of the very first things, when I was, and we were kind of just talking about this, right? Setting goals is like we tend to go way out here, right? We down here in the valley, but the goal's already at the peak of the mountain, right? Yeah. So in the valley, our goal for the peak of the mountain, I think that's where once people start to actually get into that action of how to do that, that's when they fall back. So it's like, first thing is why? What is your why behind that goal, right? So I want to reach a goal. I want to do this, but why, right? Is it because it sounds exciting, or you saw something that said, hey, you can, be a millionaire if you do this, so what is your why behind it? Because as we'll talk later, it's not going to be easy. It's not like it's just as simple as just, okay, I set this goal and I do this, so that's one of the first things I like to talk about. What is your why? What is your reasoning for wanting to do this? Because that's kind of like your anchor, right?
Yeah.
So that's your anchor. If you scaling up Mount Everest, you got to have something that's tying you and holding you on that rope, because you might slip off, you might slide down, you fall if you don't have that anchor rope. And I don't rock climb, so I don't know, but I know I see them, they have something tied on and that keeps them when they lose their grip, right? And this is the same thing, right? So what is realistic for you is going to start with where you're trying to go. What is your reasoning for doing that? What is your why for heading out on that path? And then I like to say, okay, now let's break that down into feasible steps, right? We're building something. So how are we going to build that? Well, we don't build it by jumping, like I said, way to the top. We got to start, ground one. So what is that first thing? And I like to take, instead of saying a goal, of up here, what do we need to do down here to become that, right? So it's not just I set the goal and it's a great goal, and like I was telling my daughter, she's going to have this business and do it. So that's great. So, well, what's the plan? So we got a goal, we got a why. What's the plan? How are we going to become that, right? Because we have to change. It's not about the goal. A lot of times people want to make the goal sound beautiful and great. Sometimes it's what are we changing though? What are we doing today that we have to change to become that goal tomorrow? And that's where it starts.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying, because that's where like the why is connected to like your passion, because the passion is what gets you through the hard stuff. So if you try to do something and you don't really have a passion for it, a lot of the times it will fizzle out before you reach the goal, because everything that we do in life and everything that we work towards that's really worth anything, it has to be grown. And a lot of times we think about these big goals because, like we were talking before, human beings have a very bad habit of romanticizing the stuff that we desire. So when we think about relationships, we think about we're going to have the perfect spouse. When we think about our kids, we're going to have the perfect kids. Well, if we want to be a writer, for example, me, you think you're going to have the next best-selling book, or if you're an artist, your picture is going to be like, so we really romanticize our desires, and it has a place, because the passion for achieving that is what you need to get going and to hang on through the tough times. But that's totally separate from the steps that it actually takes to get there. And a lot of times we don't separate those things. We feel like because we have a passion for something, we, again, I think it kind of plays into our sin nature, so to speak. We want that thing now. Like, we don't really think the work that goes into it. We just desire it and we want to obtain it. And so then we get to like, oh, actually, to do this, I need to do this and this and this and this and this and this, then it becomes sometimes really discouraging, because you were not thinking about doing all of those things and putting in the work. But I feel like God allows us to see what we want so that we can work towards it, because if we don't have an imagination and we don't have a vision, actually the Bible says, my people perish for lack of vision. So if you do not have the vision, you're not going to reach for that thing anyway. But now working towards that thing, you shouldn't mistake the vision for the work that needs to be done. And so separate those things, have that vision in mind, have that goal in mind, but understand that like work needs to be done to actually get there. And so that's, what I was kind of thinking about. And I like that you kind of, mentioned that. So I just want to throw that in there. And then like time to set the goals,
Right. And like you said, once we have that the vision, because like say everything looks great when you're looking at it from the top of the mountain, right? It's all happy and smiles, but down in the valley is where all the work is done, right? So that's where all the buildings taking place, all that, what we talk about a lot too is what's your foundation, what's your why, what's grounding you to remain steady when those things sway, like say you want the perfect relationship, you want the kids be a certain, we want these things to be so great, but it's not just that simple as wanting that, right? So what are we doing to create that foundation? Like the parable of the man who built his house on the sand versus the man who built on the rock of the Lord. So what are you building your foundation on, whatever your goal is, right? What is that foundation? What is that why? These are all things that are going to allow you to stretch, to that goal. And then it's breaking it down into those little things of becoming. You have to find out what's the first thing, like I said, need to come, because sometimes when we hear all those 25 different things that are needed, it's like, oh, well, was it a want or was it a desire? Did you really want this? Are you committed to doing this? Because if you commit to that goal, then you have that thing. So it's like, what's your why? And then you make that decision. Okay, I'm gonna start. Love the mountain analogy. I know I'm just locked onto this mountain. Maybe because it's something you look at a mountain, you go, and ain't no way we're not making it up there. But what the Lord said, I can move mountains. You move mountains with that faith, right? So it's the same thing. You got to start off with something that's so high, but what do I got to do down here on the ground outside of having my why? And then I got to decide to act. And then once I decide that I'm going to act, now how committed are you?
Exactly.
Right. Because it was saying something like, commitment is when the excitement of making that, promise goes away. Like, I'm gonna, like we're talking about starting off on this business, I'm gonna do this. When that excitement wears off, it's the commitment that's going to keep you going. Because that excitement wears off, then what do you have? Is your commitment that's going to get you up every day. That's going to say, okay, yesterday didn't go so well, but I'm committed, right? I'm gonna get back on that rope. I'm gonna keep working. I'm gonna keep building to that top of that mountain. I'm gonna keep building to that goal, because like you said, you had that vision. Right. So once we have that locked in place, it's like, okay, what do we need to become? What do we need to do to accomplish that? And like to say, break it down into steps, because I think Les Brown said something like inch by inch is a cinch, right? So if we just do it a little bit by little bit, we become confident in it, right? We gain that confidence. So, maybe it's just, starting off simple, right? If you want to, if you want to grow financially, maybe first thing you got to do is say, okay, maybe I need to stop spending less. Spending less. It's not always making more, because sometimes if you don't change what your behavior is, if you don't change, you can bring in more money, but if you still act the same way with your money, you're going to spend it that same way.
Exactly.
You know, so it's so many things, right? You know, when it comes to being realistic in goals, that it's not just as simple as, you know, come up with a great goal. It's like, okay, I don't even want to hear about the goal. If I talking to somebody, I said, I don't want to hear about the goal. I said, what do you want to do? Who do you want to become? Or, you know, what is that goal? Okay, who is someone that has reached that goal, right? Whatever it is, in a relationship, in a business, who has reached that goal? Okay, so what did they do? If you were to mirror them and say, oh, they do this, they do that, that's what you focus on.
Yeah.
Right? Let's focus on that first.
Yeah.
And not to mirror them, but you take what they do and you make it your own.
Exactly.
The way that works for you. So, okay, they put in so many hours a day doing this, but okay, so how do you make that happen? Because it is, and we'll talk about this later. It's the process, right? It's the process that you have to become, that you have to adapt. It's not just, I got to go and it sounds good, because talk is cheap, right? We already know that.
Yeah. And that's
I see some people have some good goals, man.
And I mean, I actually see it like, you know, anybody can dream of something. Like it doesn't take much from you. It doesn't cost you anything, you know. And so it's those people who can actually are willing to put in the work and struggle. Right. It kind of weeds out those people who are actually serious and value what they're trying to achieve. As somebody who just wants to just, you know, dream of it, but then they actually really don't want to put the work in. So that process kind of weeds those people out, because if you don't have that passion and you don't have that commitment, you're not going to reach the goal. It's just not happen. And so, it's like, even when it comes to setting goals, like you kind of mentioned a little bit ago, you really need to ask yourself some tough questions first about, we're saying, what do I really want? What am I willing to do? You know, what kind of work am I willing to put in? What kind of time? Now, if you value your time that you watch TV and you really want to hold on to that time that you watch TV it's a choice. You can say, well, I really want to reach this goal, but I really like my TV time. So it's a choice for you to make what you're willing to sacrifice to reach that goal. And a lot of times, if your goals are very, very, you know, serious goals or deep goals, it's going to require you to sacrifice some things that are important to you. And so you have to be willing to ask yourself those questions and make a decision that you're going to stick it out and remain committed to the process, you know, to reach those goals. And so I think like that's really, really important too, to get to, before you even start setting the goals, like you really have to ask yourself those things. And so something else that you're saying about when you set goals, because again, we have these lofty, very, very lofty ideas. I'm very, very guilty of it myself. And the reason why I gave the example of the writer is because I've been writing since I was a kid, and I always imagined that I was going to be best-selling author.
New York bestseller, huh?
And you know, I'm beyond my 30s now, and I'm still not the best-selling author, but it was like a reality check, because you see this, but you don't understand like the stuff that you have to put in to get there. And we're not even
need to become
getting in the way and stuff like that. And so it's been a learning process for me to see like, yeah, I have this dream, but this is what I have to do to make it happen. And a lot of people don't really understand those steps in between.
Right.
That's where a life coach actually comes in, because even somebody who might say, I'm willing to do the work, I have the goal, I know why I want to do it, they don't really know where to start. Okay, what do I need to do? You know, they sometimes need somebody to help them come up with a list. Like what you were saying, you kind of look at those people who have done it and you take something from them, which is very, very, I think even us as, you know, us coaches, we do that. We look at other people in the industry, but you can also like get a coach for that reason, somebody that can help you kind of lay those steps out and keep you accountable and set realistic goals for you. Because if you're thinking you want to be, you know, the next whoever tomorrow, it's really not going to happen that way. And you're actually setting yourself up for the type of disappointment that is going to lead to you not reaching the goal anyway.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. And to that point, speaking of having a coach and adding a coach, if we take, again, we're talking, yeah, when we say realistic goals, we're talking big goals, right? We're talking, change making type of goals, things that, I hear people say a lot of. Everybody says, well, why do you want to do this? Well, I want to impact lives and I want to change, so that's all great. But then when they say, okay, well, who are you working with? Like you said, who's holding you accountable? Because you could take any industry. I don't care who they are, if someone's doing something great at a great level and you recognize them by name in that field that you're going towards, I would say maybe not 10 out of 10, but 9 times out of 10, they have a coach. Some have multiple coaches.
Yeah.
Some have coach for business, coach for it. So if we go and just strip away how we're trying to go and how big the goal is, how are you getting there on your own? Because these people that do anything at a great level have some sort of support. And people go, well, yeah, but I don't need a coach. No, the coach is just a mirror for you, actually.
Yeah.
Right. We know that you're literally a mirror of what that individual is capable of doing, but kind of helping them, guide them through that.
Yeah.
Whether it's through speaking, whether it's through setting goals, whether it's through holding them accountable is a big thing, because they already have the why, the drive, and the passion, right? If you have that, but you need that mirror to help you reflect off of what you're doing, what looks to be the best step. It's almost like someone that's completely analyzing everything you do and helping you with feedback. And a person that's serious about something, that versus, like you said, a person that's just talking about something, or a person that's actually doing something towards that, is going to have some sort of support in a coach, whether it's a coach, whether it's a mentor, because that is the only way to push you and help you with that confidence, because otherwise you're just out there on your own, and nothing really happens on our own.
I mean, I think like that's how God created us. Like when we want to do something, we have to see it emulated. Like we have to, I mean, we could figure it out, but because our lifespans are not a million years, we don't have a lot of time to do that. And so by not only seeing it emulated, but having someone help you with that, it cuts down on that time that is going to take you to try to figure it out on your own. So
exactly.
Like, we can't, we're not really wired to go through these things alone. We need examples. We need to know we're not self-contained beings. Like we have to have this support. We have to have examples. We have to have knowledge. And that's where like mentorships and, coaching is a fairly new, I mean, it's a growing industry. So before coaches were even, a thing, people had mentors. They had apprentices of, what is it called? Apprenticeship, or the person will teach you a skill or trade. So that's very, very crucial. And that's not to say like you have to have a coach.
No.
Some people can't afford them, but it's definitely good to have somebody in your life to help you figure out those steps without you having to stumble 50 times before you figure it out. And then now you're too old to really get where you want to get. So, your health is going and, stuff like that. And so, that's very important to have that support system. Now, because we're talking about that, I think it's important to mention that, like, what do you think people should do who feel like they don't have a support system? Because I know, like, for a long time with me wanting to be a coach and a writer and things like that, there was nobody around me, there was nobody around me that was a coach. And a lot of times I did feel like alone, like I didn't know what to do. And I didn't have like a lot of family supporting me or people investing in me. And I really think it's a blessing if you're the type of person that have people around you that invest in what you want to do. But some people don't have that. So what would you say to people who really want to do something and they have a drive, they have the passion, they have the why, but they don't have the support system?
Right. And when we were talking about that conversation app, where people ask a question, and a gentleman was responding to a comment of a question that he had asked, and he was kind of mentioning that same thing about not having support in kind of, solving problems or whatever he was going towards. And, it's like, not having that same mindset of people. And I think if you're trying to go towards something, right, if you're trying to do something that you see as a vision, that you see as something that's beyond yourself, right, that goes into that whole thing. What we're here for, I think, is a purpose of a service that we're all here to do, So we have to look outside of ourselves. And if your circle is contrary to that, I know it sounds cold and you in the wrong circle, because you can't, if you're trying to grow and change outside of what your comfort zone, because everything we've done up to our lives to this point has gotten us here. It's from those group where they say the closest 5 people around you, you know. So if now you got to some point in your life, you're like, you know what, I need to expand beyond this, right? You can't expand beyond it from that, because that's all that that's where you're at. It's from a result of that. So you have to reach out into that area and find those people. And they're out there. I mean, the easiest place and the free place is the Facebook group. People talk about, you know, all Facebook groups, it's what you're using it for, not just to be sitting there looking at what everybody else talking about. If you're looking to connect with people, reach out. That's how we connected, right? It wasn't just, oh, let's just connect. It was like, hey, I'm thinking about this, you're thinking about this, hey, well, let's get on a call, and boom, there we go, right? So use it for a purpose to find like-minded people, because they're out there, but you're not going to just find them by scrolling through, right? You gotta take that opportunity and not just connect to be connected. Like, hey, you see someone, they're speaking on their content is in that mind realm of what you're looking to do, what you're see as a vision to do. Reach out to that person, say, hey, I like your mindset. You know, would you be open to hopping onto a call, kind of, you know, trying to build a community? It's free. If someone has that time and they're looking for that same thing, that's the best person to bounce off of. I mean, me and you, again, we've had these conversations, you know, we kind of going through the same things. And so, you know, like, hey, you say, hey, this is going on, that's going on. So we talk a lot about that, but that was all from that setting. And that just, I think, iron sharpens iron, right? So you can't be trying to do a thing and then have 5 naysayers over here going, why are you doing that? That sounds stupid. What you know, you can't do that. Ain't nobody, that's not going to get it done. So you have to make that tough decision. Is what you're doing a big enough dream, a big enough goal, a calling that you need to step outside of that circle? Because honestly, if they are truly your friends, if they truly care about you, if they love you for who you are, what you're doing, they're going to be there. They're going to support that. You know, hey, I can't hang around you, but I still love you. You know, we got family like that, right? You know, sometimes the hardest critics, the hardest ones, are the ones closest. They the one laughing and talking about it, but you know what? I still love you anyway, but I'm gonna be over here. We ain't gotta hang. I tell people this on the job, you know, you guys ain't gotta hang out together, be besties, but when you at work, there's a common goal. You have to have respect for one another, and you have to support one another. But when you're outside of that, that's fine. So if you want to have that circle and you can't, people say, well, I live with them. All right. Okay. Well, if you live with them, when you talking about your goals or working on your content or what you're trying to go, you need to go outside that area and deal with that and come home. You know, you got to be able to separate that, because you can't let them into that box. Otherwise you'll never grow. You'll stay in that same circle and people say, well, I'm just around the wrong people, but that's your choice. That's a choice.
Unless y'all are conjoined, you were born connected, you can move away. But
that's even deeper problem if
I know, like sometimes when I see, you know, because I'm like really interested in, I'm a very curious person in general. So anytime I see something that gets my attention, I'm, you know, and so I went through a little phase where I was like really fascinated with conjoined people. Could you imagine being stuck? I mean, you guys really have to work together and get along, because you can
have to
your own worst enemy. I mean, so you can be the greatest partner or the worst enemy, because you guys cannot get away from each other, you know.
So if you don't have that situation, then there's no excuse for you to say, oh, I can't find the right crowd. I can't find the people that, you know, they understand me, or they speak my, you know, we say speak my language, your tribe, right? They're out there. You just have to be willing to put yourself out there, you know, open up, be a little vulnerable, say, hey, I'm looking for accountability partner to help me with this. And that's where you start. There's no excuse for that.
No, it's not. And I think it points to another important fact that I see a lot, especially with younger people, because because today's world is full of so much technology, especially kids that's growing up with this stuff and they normal. It makes you think that you don't have to seek for stuff. Like if you want to know the answer to a question, you can look it up very easily. Like years ago when we were little, you had to go to encyclopedia, like, you know, look it up. You had to go to the library. You had to put some work in. And so a lot of the times with this technology, I see that it's really, and it's the youth that's grown up with it, but then you also have older people who get too comfortable with it also. But it is like robbing us of the value of seeking stuff, like seeking, like going on the internet, seeking the things that we need, going outside of our comfort zone. And, you know, I think there's a lot of value in seeking, and that needs to still be like in the forefront of anybody's mind who is trying to reach a goal. Like, you have to seek for it. That's like a major part of work. Yeah.
So, no, I love that. Seeking, you know, it was Bible says, "Seeking, you shall find." Right? We want to just click on an app.
Yeah.
We get the app, and the app tell us, you know, they got goal setting apps. You know, put in your goal setting. I mean, that's all great if that's how you track stuff. Yeah. But that's not how you seek. That's not how you figure out, because it starts at ground zero.
Yeah.
It starts right here. Right. Yeah. And this is the secrets right here.
Yeah.
We're looking on Google. I say Google ain't got the answer to everything. We're looking on Google for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not, you know, and it stuff loses its value when you don't, like, when you don't have to pay any price for something, you don't value it as much. Yep. So yeah, it's nice to be able to have information at your fingertips, but it also makes people take stuff for granted too. And so you really have to, like anybody that's looking to achieve a certain goal, you really have to be willing to seek outside of, I mean, just, okay, here's your comfort zone, and then you seek a little bit outside of that, and then you feel like, okay, that's it. No, you have to be willing to seek wherever what you need. Like, exactly. It takes you way farther than you expected. As long as you're seeking for something that's going to get you to where you want to go, you have to be willing to go to that extent. And so, of course, I'm not talking about anything bad, but, you know, just really going outside of your comfort zone, what's familiar to you, what's comfortable for you, what you like. You may even have to do some things that you don't like, you know, take jobs under people who are not the best leaders, because you know you're going to learn something from them. You need to go further. And so I think seeking is really important, especially for me, because that's how I've ever came into any knowledge or understanding of my own, is when I was like actively seeking for it. And so
right. And I know we almost to the end. One more thought. We are. Seeking was, though, you know, it brought to mind, like, it's not necessarily the how, right? They always say the how is not the business. So it's your willingness, right? So once you decide and you have that willingness to seek, you know, because at the end of the day, we're talking purpose, right? We're talking not just setting a goal, we're talking realistic, purposeful, what are you doing here sort of things. And that comes from being willing to decide to seek that. Okay, what am I going to be willing to, because it's not going to be easy, and we'll talk about this in another episode, but it's not going to be easy, but what am I willing to do? And if I have that will, what they say, if there's a will, there's a way, right? So if you have that will, and you're going to, you know, pick up the books, maybe I got to go and interview someone that's did this, or I got to seek out the information, not just at my fingertips, because it's not going to be that easy. You know, I may have to put in the work. I mean, it's a lot of times it's just, you know, notepad, paper, and up here. Yeah. You know, and that's tough for a lot of people, to just put down everything and just be willing to put in that quiet time to think about what I need to do, who I need to become. What does that look like? In other words, I have to be able to be willing to see myself as that person I'm trying to become in that goal. Exactly. I think that is the key to advancing.
Yeah, it is. And if any of you guys watching this, you need help setting your goals or figuring out what you want to do, that's what me and Willie do. We both are life coaches. We kind of coach in a little bit different areas. Some of our areas overlap, but some of them don't. But you can definitely contact and reach out to either one of us if you want some help setting your own goals and trying to find accountability partner and things like that. So you can keep that in mind too. Like, we're talking and we're trying to give you tools, but we're also available for anybody that needs us also. And so I think we're getting closer to 30 minutes. I feel like there's more that I could say about this topic, but you know, we can always stretch it out for another time. And actually, this is part one of a kind of series that we're going to be doing about setting goals and some of the issues that come up with setting goals. And so for the next video, we're going to be talking about God's role in your goals and in your purpose, and how to deal with frustration or when things are not moving the way you expect and things like that. So you guys can tune in the next 2 weeks, because we put these videos out bi-weekly, to get some more information, about that. So is there anything else you would like to add, Willie, before we get out of here?
No, appreciate anybody, here that's, like, subscribe, let us know, please. Feedback is great. We all grow through feedback, and never to take feedback personal, because that's how you grow. So please leave questions, comments, and like Stephanie said, reach out, even if it's just like, hey, I had a question. I saw you talking about this, because that's what we're here for. We're here to bring value and add to people's lives, to encourage you to always move forward.
Exactly. Really good. Really good. All right. So thank you guys, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye-bye.